So you guys said you wanted me to share how I was diagnosed being gluten-free on my story. So here it is. So I grew up in a household where my parent, my mother, was actually gluten-free. So she has an autoimmune disease that rejects a lot of food. So she develops food allergies over time. They like appear, disappear. It's very common. So I was not new to gluten-free. I got tested for celiac disease and an autoimmune disease as well in college because I was suspected of being gluten-free back then. I resulted negative back then, so I continued to eat gluten and bread and all that stuff for years to come. So March 2020, when everyone started to go home, being from work and being sent home and everything with pandemic started going on, that's when stuff really changed for me as well. And I'm sure a lot of people, I remember being so stressed out about my family, my job, my health, the world. I was planning a wedding back then. It was a hot mess, really. And sadly enough, a lot of what people don't realize is stress induces so many health issues. And really, I think that's what happened for me. So because of being so hyper stressed for such a long time, I realized that I was developing these symptoms that I didn't have before. So for me, my symptoms were very like crampy stomach pains. Not like I had to go to like the bathroom or anything like that. It was like, I feel like somebody was just squeezing my stomach. I'd be in like debilitating pain in the bed for days at a time. I'd have headaches. I have eczema, but generally it's very manageable and I don't have to use my steroid cream on a regular basis, but I was experiencing so many flare-ups at that time. My skin was on fire. And so about 2 months of that, when I waited a long time, I realized that something was wrong and I needed to figure what that was out. So I got a test. So Everlywell is an online kind of like lab, if you will. They actually do like COVID tests and stuff, I think, now too. But at the time, they send you a kit in the mail. You prick your finger, put some blood on, some like tabs or whatever, and they send it back to a lab. In a couple of days, they send you kind of like a report of things that you're sensitive to. This is not an allergy test. This is a food sensitivity test, which is a little different. So we're looking for different markers in your blood than an allergy. But it can be a good start for someone who doesn't know anything about allergies, of things you can eliminate and see if like it makes you feel better. So that's what I did. Surprisingly, what showed up for me was my highest was eggs or egg whites, and then medium was gluten and garlic. So at the time I cut out all three things for about a couple of months. It felt immediately better. It takes about a week when you eliminate something for you to feel a significant difference. So for about, I don't even know, a long time, this was like April of last year, a couple of months, I decided to cut everything out, but it's so hard to be gluten-free and egg-free. A lot of gluten kind of snacks and foods have eggs in it, especially egg whites, because people tend to think those are healthier, and vice versa. Vegan options rarely were nut-free and gluten-free as well, so it's hard for me to really eat out anywhere. It was terrible. So after about 9 months, I think, or about a year later, because it was a stress-induced allergy, sometimes you can grow out of them. So after 9 months, I began to kind of wean myself back onto gluten, and that was not a smart thing on my part. I started to experience the same symptoms again, and very quickly as well. So at that point I was like, what? Like, I thought gluten was one that was medium, so I didn't reintroduce eggs. I only reintroduced gluten. So I decided to go to an allergist. In April of this year, I went to an allergist in Greensboro, North Carolina. I want to say her name was Dr. Skylar Paget. I have all of this actually in a blog post on my website if you're interested in knowing all the details that I'm sharing today, or if you want to use any of these resources like Everlywell or my doctor, read the blog post. She did a back allergy test. Good God, my back was on fire. I thought I was going to scream. You have to get pricked with the individual allergies that you're concerned about on your back. I did, I think, about like 40 or something like that of things I just across the board. Not only food, but environmental stuff as well. And I found out like really, really valuable information. Things that I was allergic to as a child, no longer allergic to, just never tried them. And things that I wasn't allergic to 2 years ago, well, like gluten, now I am. And that was probably the best thing I've ever did. Hey, this is my mother. This is
Hi.
a special guest coming today. So it's interesting that we were talking about being gluten-free. Like I said, she's been gluten-free for a long time. Different reason for why she's gluten-free. You have an autoimmune disease that forces food not to work with your body. Mine, I have no idea how I got gluten-free necessarily. I suspect it was stress. But because of her, I've been living gluten-free growing up, and it's fine. You know it's not a big deal. You can do it, enjoy life just like everybody else. So, I mean, I think that helped me realize once I was gluten-free now that it wasn't like the end of the world.
Yeah, I think it's come from a long way, because when I first got diagnosed with having an issue, it was like 2004, and there was like nothing in the store. It was like so limited, the options, but now it's gotten so much better. So it really doesn't make you feel like you're losing out on a lot of things. But when I first started, I like lost 10, 15 pounds in like the first month because there was nothing to eat.
I feel like I lost so much weight just from not eating bread, and I started eating better meals. So like just like a meat, like potato and a vegetable, or eating vegan more often too. Like I just feel like I started to eat better overall. Then we did that water challenge and started working out more, because working out or like just staying healthy in general helps your allergies like stay at bay too. So like managing stress and keeping yourself, like your body healthy, helps you not have a lot of like strong allergy reactions.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, it really does affect my joints. And so if there's anybody that has allergies and they're have autoimmune type issues, inflammation, gluten actually does have a huge impact on your body's just being and getting inflamed. I remember the first time I heard leaky gut. I was like, what the heck is that? But it made so much sense. And so, your body not everyone's body can digest that whatever is in gluten. Like I still can't figure it out, but and I remember the first time when they told me, I was like, nah, this can't be. And so I tried it for 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, my body feels amazing. Like I wasn't sluggish. I had a lot of energy, and I was like, let me just try that pizza just one more time. and I did that, and it was like immediately, I felt terrible. I went straight back into that way I was feeling, and it's just not worth it.
No, I remember in the beginning, I was like trying to be so about it, and I remember I ate a cupcake, and for me, I get extreme fatigue, and it's almost immediate. Like every single time I would eat gluten, probably last summer, like here and there, I'd immediately have to take a nap. Like I'd immediately just knock out. That's how I knew it was like your body's like, what are you doing, girl? We trying to process this, like, and we tired.
Yes. And the more you get away from it, the more your body has no tolerance for it. Like even the slightest little crumb is like.
I literally did that to me yesterday. We went to a pho place, and I used my spoon to get something out of Quentin's mouth, and he had like fried rice. But then I ate my food. I wiped it off, but we were like out and about, so I didn't have like a new spoon to use. But yeah, it wasn't terrible, but like I did break out. I had a flare up for eczema. It wasn't like I ate it. This was like cross-contamination.
Yes, and one thing that is different for me is I'm not actually allergic to it. My body's intolerant, so there's a difference. And
I'm allergic.
Yes, and so for you will break out, have a rash. My body will actually start shutting down. Like it doesn't even know what to do with gluten. So And I literally start feeling like a crazy person, like I've drunk something on alcohol. It's not like I'm drunk. And then all of a sudden things just start getting, my limbs start shutting down, and it's a really scary thing. And so when I first told the doctor about it, they were like, "Oh, that's all in your head. That doesn't work."
Especially being a Black woman. Let me just go and say that.
Yes. And so later, and I went to another physician, and she finally said, "Yeah, that does make sense." And unfortunately, as time progressed, it turned into autoimmune. And so my body just, after a while, it just said, okay, it treated everything that it didn't recognize as something to attack, like it doesn't supposed to be there. And so, but hey, I'm definitely glad that I found out when I did. And, I tell folks all the time, if they've got RA, if they got lupus, if they've got, any kind of thing like that, really think about not having gluten. And dairy is a whole nother conversation for a whole nother show, but gluten is just say no.
It don't be worth it. Like, okay, I'm literally eating a bun cake that's gluten-free. Like, tastes just as good. It's not the exact same, but it's still pretty darn good. It's not worth it. I'm gonna eat this cake, and I'm gonna be fine.
Yes. They only have one flavor for us, but I digress. But
you might get one flavor. But at least you can eat it. It really do. Like, when we went to Miami, there was this donut place that had one flavor, but it was fantastic.
Yes.
No options. And no variety.
Right. But at least they gave us one, so I'll take it.
But yes, so I appreciate you coming and sharing your story, because I think it's helpful for people, especially who no one in their family has allergies. They don't think that's the first thing to go to. For me, it was, because I, had people in the family, and I've grown up with allergies since I was born. So it was kind of like one of the first things I jumped to.
Yeah.
But like my husband's family, none of them have allergies. So if they were experiencing the same symptoms, they might not think to get an allergy test. They might not think to go to the doctor and say, you know what, I think I've noticed this when I was eating X, Y, and Z. Like, they don't put those two and two things together. Well, I hope this is helpful for you guys if you were experiencing any of these symptoms. So for me, it was fatigue, my stomach cramping, eczema flare-ups. For you, it's a little bit different, of just like your joints hurting, or like you just feeling woozy, or like lightheaded and crazy.
Like I'm gonna die. I literally had to get rushed to the hospital one time because I do get an anaphylactic response. So even like in my throat would start to close up, and everything would just start. Yeah, so it's not good. It's not a good situation.
When I was in Miami, there's this, I'll have to find the link where it is, but I looked it up. There's 4 stages of reactions, and it tells you what to do. So like, first stage is like you just kind of feel off or lightheaded, or you might have like some itchy feelings, and it's like, okay, your body can manage that. The next stage is like when you need to take a Benadryl, and that's where I got to.
Yeah.
Like, you start to feel like you might throw up or vomiting, headaches, like just out of it, like really slurred speech.
How about heart racing?
Yes, heart racing. And and then I think that one's on the third one. Like, you start to get even worse, to like borderline need your EpiPen, and it's like the third one where you can, maybe if you have 1 or 2 symptoms of the third phase, you just can use 2 pills of Benadryl. But by the time the fourth one, it's like when your body is shutting down. So the third one is when you probably need an EpiPen, of like heart racing, starting to swell. The fourth one is like when your body shuts down, like.
And mine goes there quickly, which is probably not good.
Well, yeah, and they had the different timetables too. For me, it's really slow. So mine, it took, I think, almost 2 hours for me to hit the peak of what I got to. I hit vomiting pretty quick within like 30 minutes, but like the next hour and a half, it was like teetering between phase 2 and 3. So you got to be careful, because it could be 0 to 100 really quick, or I at least had time to get back to my EpiPen, get back to my medicine, so I could manage my symptoms and not have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But if you have questions, let me know. I can try to help you. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you what I've experienced, or what I know some people close to me have experienced. And it's helpful just to always get tested. It's expensive, so I definitely would recommend starting with Everlywell, because my allergy test was $1,000. Like, it's not cheap, but it was worth it in the end. But that's probably the one time I'm gonna get the next 20 years.
Right.
But all right, well, thank you guys, and ta-ta. Bye.